How's it going, Magpies? Magpie Leon here. As we continue our journey going across why I love each individual Halo game in their own way, we now arrive at Halo 5. As I mentioned in the Halo 4 video, I was in the middle of a playthrough of ODST while recording that, which is why we skipped ODST and Reach for now, but I will go to them after this one. I've beat ODST now. I just had to go back through it to sort of give myself a refresh before I did that video. But I've beat that now, so that video will be next in this series. But yeah, today we'll talk about Halo 5 and why I love the game. We'll go over what I think of the art style very briefly at the beginning, since I pretty much spoke about the art style in the Halo 4 one. My initial thoughts of the game, the multiplayer, the campaign, the music, pretty much like all the main stuff, and my overall opinion on the game, and how even though there is things that I dislike, I still love the game as a Halo game, and as a game in its own way in general. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's jump straight in. So as I mentioned, I'd already pretty much said everything that I kind of needed to say about the art style in the Halo 4 video. It is very hit and miss. A lot of the armors do look kind of hideous, but that is just simply down to the fact that rather than having a consistent or a team of consistent like sort of artists designing the armor, most of them were all contracted, and obviously people have different ideas when they design armor for a game, so you know, it was kind of bound to happen. Not everyone's got the same vision when they want to design stuff. You didn't have a team of people doing it, so yeah, you were going to have inconsistencies. Don't get me wrong, there's still some really good armor. For example, I think War Master is really cool, but then you also have some downright terrible ones like Seeker. Obviously, I've already said before I wasn't a huge fan of the change to Chief's armor and all that sort of stuff, but I've pretty much spoke about all that in my Halo 4 video, so I don't want to dwell on it for too long. Anyway, let's go into my initial thoughts of Halo 5. So we're going to kick this off with Halo 2 Anniversary, when they did that little sort of teaser for it with Arbiter and Locke. Now this obviously gave me hope that one, the Arbiter was going to be in it, and two, that they were returning to a classic art style, considering all the elites were in a classic art style. I was like, oh my god, they're going to change the art style for Halo 5, this is awesome! I was quite young at the time, but yeah, that's sort of what I thought when they showed this off. I did think it was a really cool tease, and I was really intrigued to find out more about Fireteam Osiris and Locke and those characters, and then this cutscene didn't really have anything to do with the game, which was kind of annoying. But then I remember the Halo 5 announcement trailer, the one where Chief's in the poncho, and I've got to admit, I found it awesome. I thought it was so cool. Now, I usually watch E3 with my dad and my family every time it's on. It's kind of like an event for us, because obviously we all like games, we all play games. But my dad was at work at the time, so sitting there with my mum, she wasn't really paying all that much attention. And as soon as the trailer started, even though he was cloaked in a poncho and you couldn't really see that it was Chief, I could just tell. I don't know, there was just something there. I could just tell what it was and that it was Chief. And I was like, oh my god, it's Halo, it's a new Halo! And I was very excited. Obviously, you know, we had other trailers here and there and all the promotional stuff. I was really worried they were planning on killing Chief off and trying to replace him with Locke. Chief is my favourite video game character of all time and always has been, and is quite frankly one of my favourite fictional characters, if not my favourite fictional character of all time. So the thought of them trying to replace him, it did have me on edge for when the game released. I was very nervous about it, but I was still really excited. I also remember them talking about Warzone, and although I was annoyed about like the whole microtransaction rec pack sort of thing, at the same time I was really excited to play this mode. I've wanted to be able to fight AI opponents as well as players in Halo for a long time. Like, I wanted to be able to fight the Covenant and stuff like that in multiplayer matches. And Warzone allowed us to do this, and I thought it was really cool. It was a really cool concept. I'll talk about Warzone and all my thoughts there a bit more in depth later on, but I did think it was pretty cool when it had been announced, and I was very excited to play it. Other than that, I didn't pay too much attention to the multiplayer stuff, as it was the thing that I was least interested in, but I remember around about this time I'd watch a lot of Green Skull videos and other Halo YouTubers, mostly Green Skull. I liked watching his pack openings and all that sort of stuff when the game launched, but I never actually got Halo 5 on launch. I had to wait until Christmas. So when the game had come out, I was very hyped to finally get my hands on it, and at the time I was pretty much, I'd watch like pack openings and watch people play Warzone, but I'd avoid any of the campaign stuff as I didn't want it to get spoiled for me. Anyway, Christmas as of that year, I finally got the chance to play Halo 5, and the first thing I did was actually jump into Warzone, as funnily enough as that was the thing that I was most excited for. I'd obviously opened up all my packs, and I believe I even brought, it was like the Warzone special pack thing they did, where you got like 2 packs once a week or something like that, and you got guaranteed like some special armor. I think I brought all that sort of stuff when it come out. I'd done everything to get some free armors before the game launched, like some of the stuff that you could do on Halo Waypoint and making a Spartan crew and all that sort of stuff. I did all that. I wanted to unlock as much as possible when the game launched. I had weapon skins, I had armor. I was ready to jump straight into Warzone, and I've got to admit, I loved it. I was playing so much Warzone when the game launched. The reason I didn't jump straight into the campaign is because I was actually going to be running through the campaign on Legendary with my parents. We were going to go through it together. I was very angry because my dad played as Chief and I had to play as Fred. And, I mean, I did get to play as Buck though, so that was a bonus. Overall, yeah, I was really excited for the game, and when I finally got the chance to play it, I was really happy and I was really enjoying it. I remember I'd keep coming downstairs on Christmas and telling my parents, I've just leveled up again, as it felt like the XP, I was leveling up really quickly, and I'd get really excited whenever I unlocked some new wrecks. Now, again, I was disappointed with the microtransaction side of thing, but I was really happy to finally be playing a new Halo game, and that can't be understated. Yeah, the gameplay did change a lot, but I mean, when the game launched, I thought, well, when I finally got the chance to play the game, I thought it was pretty good at it, and I did really enjoy it. Honestly, as far as my initial thoughts with the game go, most of it was all positive. I did start the campaign, and we weren't enjoying it too much. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't loving it, but I'll talk more about each thing like that again later on in the video. So let's jump straight into the multiplayer side of thing and talk more in depth about Warzone. Now, Warzone sort of comes in 2 flavours. You've got your regular Warzone and your Warzone Firefight. Warzone Firefight was added much later on in the game's lifespan, but it was a cool addition. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's just talk about normal Warzone first. Now, they do special Warzone modes now and again. There was Warzone Assault, which is like where one team is just constantly pushing and capturing bases from the other, and also Warzone Turbo, which is where as soon as you capture your home base, you're all at level 9 wrecks and you can spawn in anything, and it's pretty wacky and can be fun. There's also that other Warzone mode that I can't quite remember the name of, that you need to have like a full squad of 12 players to be able to play, and you were supposed to get a special reward if you beat it or something like that, if you won a game on there. I never got said reward, I can't remember. Yeah, it's pretty much just normal Warzone, but you have to have a full squad of players from what I can remember from that mode. And obviously you've got your base standard Warzone. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, Warzone is essentially a big team battle where you play on large scale maps. You have to capture bases and kill players in order to score points, but there is also enemy AI on there, being the Covenant, Prometheans, that sort of stuff. And bosses can spawn in, you kill the boss, you get more points, that sort of thing. But the real sort of main thing about Warzone was your wreck cards. Now, these were sort of weapons and vehicles that you could summon in. They were like a little card that you get from your wreck packs, and you could spawn them in when you've achieved a certain amount of wreck points in a match, and they would give you whatever weapon and vehicle, and you just use them to try and get the win, essentially. Now, this is where the issues come in with Warzone, is this did make the game very pay to win. Obviously, people that buy wreck packs are guaranteed to have better wrecks. That means you're going to have better weapons, better vehicles. You did also get armor out of wreck packs and like cosmetic stuff, and I think if it was just limited to cosmetic stuff, then the wreck packs themselves wouldn't be pay to win. But because you did get weapons and stuff for Warzone, it did make Warzone a very pay-to-win mode. Now, really, to be fair, I think if they just kept Warzone all to itself and actually had the cosmetics unlocked a different way, then that would have been much better. And then Warzone could have just been secluded to its own little thing, where, yeah, you can buy stuff, but you don't have to buy the wreck packs in order to unlock the armor, because that did make it very stressful to unlock stuff. I ended up spending a lot more money on that game than I should have, because I wanted to unlock the cool armors and stuff, but obviously, a lot of the time you could buy a pack and not even get any customization stuff because you just get stuff for Warzone mode. I will admit though, I do really enjoy Warzone. It's probably my favourite mode to play on Halo 5 and it is the one I've played the most. Even with its pay-to-win stuff, I think if you're skilled enough, then that doesn't really matter all that much. Plus, there is ways to cheese the system. I mean, someone can spawn in a Scorpion, but if you're above that vehicle spawn, then you can just instantly hijack it and pop a grenade in there. So, it's kind of annoying. See, that can be a good thing on one side. Yeah, you don't have to fight that Scorpion now, but on the other side of things, I spent money to buy that Scorpion. Well, I spent money on that pack to get that Scorpion, and it's just instantly blown up. What a waste of money that was. But one thing I did love about Warzone was how it was these large-scale battles across these big maps. I always found it really fun. Some maps on Warzone I did absolutely hate. I think overall its map consistency is not very good. You do have some really good ones, but you also have some borderline terrible ones. But seeing like this 12v12 mode, seeing these 11 other Spartans run alongside you, it was cool. I mean, it was a bigger mode than Big Team Battle, so I liked it because of that, and I liked being able to fight bosses. Whenever like Warren Eternal or something like that, or one of the grunt mechs would spawn in, I'd run straight over to fight the boss because I found that to be the most enjoyable part of the mode. I like how it was a PvPvE mode. I thought that was pretty cool, and definitely something quite unique to the game. I did always hope that they'd add stuff like this to Forge, where like, oh, maybe they'll add it where I can spawn Warren Eternal in on my Forge maps, because I thought that would be something really cool, but that never happened, which is a shame, but oh well, it is what it is. But point is, I really enjoyed Warzone as a mode. I don't enjoy it as much now. I do from time to time. It really purely depends on what mood I'm in. But then a bit later on down the line we got Warzone Firefight. Now this was a very different take on Firefight. Rather than just fighting continuous waves to see how long you can survive, it was now 5 waves of random different things. It could be defend a base, take out X amount of bosses, kill a certain amount of grunts or crawlers or any enemy really. And they could be quite different. They did get stale now and again, like sometimes if you were on a certain map you'd know what waves you'd have and what enemies you would primarily be fighting. Like there's one map where it's almost always Prometheans, you almost never fight the Covenant on there, and it can get boring. But overall, I enjoy Warzone Firefight. It's a good way to get rec points, and it can be quite challenging. It's not an easy mode. They did have multiple difficulties, being heroic, legendary, and then they'd add mythic on weekends. But now they seem to have removed the heroic and legendary ones, and it's just Warzone Firefight or Mythic Warzone Firefight. Mythic Warzone Firefight, it's Warzone Firefight with skulls added every round. You get a crap ton of rec points if you manage to win this, but it is really hard. You get a lot of XP and a lot of rec points, but it is a really, really hard mode. This is an 8-player firefight mode on some remixed versions of Warzone Firefight maps, regular Warzone maps, and a couple of its own maps too. Although the original Warzone Firefight maps, the ones that made specifically for that mode, kind of suck. One final thing I will mention is I kind of wished we got some like Warzone type maps for Big Team Battle, for the arena multiplayer, because all the arena like Big Team Battle maps were all made in Forge, which in some cases can be fine, but I do feel like I prefer the developer made maps over the Forge ones a lot of the time, as they're made with the proper assets, not the Forge ones, so they tend to look a lot better. But yeah, I enjoy Warzone and Warzone Firefight. They definitely have the flaws. They're not perfect. They have a lot of flaws, I'll be honest. They can be broken at times. You can get the boss kill, but it'll say the enemy team did. You can assassinate a boss and it will say that your teammates killed it and you didn't get any points. It can be really annoying, I'll admit, but I really enjoyed it. I've played so much Warzone, so much Warzone. My KD in it's actually really good. My win to loss ratio, on the other hand, is not. But the point is, this mode will always hold a special place in my heart, and I'm very excited for Big Team Battle 2.0 and how it's upping to a 12v12 sort of thing. But I do hope we get something similar to Warzone or Warzone Firefight in Infinite. Maybe Firefight can have elements of Warzone Firefight in it where you have boss waves and stuff like that. I think that would definitely make it quite cool. Or maybe we can just have a Big Team Battle 2.0 that has enemy AI, like the banished stuff like that, just thrown in there. I think that could definitely make quite an interesting mode, and something I do hope to see. Going away from Warzone and talking about the more arena side of things, I didn't play the arena multiplayer all that much on Halo 5. I'd usually play the social arena stuff a lot more, you know, your Big Team Battles, Infection, Fiesta, that sort of stuff. But as far as the like competitive stuff goes, I'd play SWAT now and again if I wanted to unlock the special emblems, just so I could say I have the special emblems, but that was about it. I never really touched these modes that much, mainly because I wasn't that much of a competitive player when it comes to Halo 5. I much preferred the casual side of things, which is why I played Warzone a lot more. That mode was a bit more casual. And I would obviously play social games. I liked Action Sack, well, some of the modes in Action Sack. And I do still like playing Big Team Super Fiesta now and again, as I think that mode is really fun, and getting to use some of the rec variants. And I haven't spoke about the rec variants that much, but for those of you that don't know, it's basically different variants of weapons that do different things. It can be something as simple as an AR with a battle rifle scope, or you can get like a version of the rocket launcher that fires 3 rockets at once. But yeah, I liked playing Super Fiesta. Infection on Halo 5 is really enjoyable. It's not as cool as Halo 4's or 2 Anniversaries, as the infected aren't actually the flood. It goes back to Silver, it just changes the colours and gives them a stinky aura. But it is definitely a really enjoyable take on Infection. One thing that definitely does make Halo 5's multiplayer a lot different compared to every other Halo game is a lot of its movement and sort of Spartan abilities and all that stuff, like ground pound and Spartan charge, as well as the thrusters and the like whatever the thing is where you aim in the air and it sort of keeps you in the air or whatever. Halo 5 has a lot more movement, a lot more mobility, so it makes gameplay feel a lot faster pace, but it didn't quite feel like Halo. A lot of the stuff did change, and I will admit Halo 5's multiplayer is really fun, but at times it doesn't really feel like I'm playing Halo. It does feel like I'm playing something else. That doesn't mean it's not fun though. I will reiterate, I think Halo 5's multiplayer is really fun, but at times it just doesn't quite feel like Halo. If you could master these mobility options, then you'll become a really good player. I did sort of master them, but whenever I go back to the game now, I'm kind of like an old man. I'm not very good at it. Even on Warzone, I tend to get my butt handed to me 90% of the time. But yeah, Halo 5's multiplayer is definitely a very mixed bag for me. Now, in terms of multiplayer stuff, you've also got your custom games in Forge. Halo 5 has amazing custom games. I love custom games and Reach in Halo 4, and Halo 5 really takes it to the next level, and that is because it's got a really, really advanced Forge system. It really allowed people to make some really cool things, and I do really enjoy the custom games. I'm not going to talk about them too much. I might stream it. Honestly, I might do a stream where I play Halo 5 custom games with people if that's something you'll be interested in. But yeah, Halo 5 custom games in Forge, very good. I definitely spoke about the multiplayer side of things a lot longer than I expected to, mostly Warzone. So yeah, just to give a quick summary, I like Warzone, I like Halo 5's multiplayer, I think it is very fun, but it doesn't quite feel like Halo most of the time. That does not mean it's bad, it's just kinda eh. But I will admit, Halo 5's multiplayer is one of my favourite in the series. Now, moving away from the multiplayer side of things, let's go and talk about the campaign. As I mentioned, I was very cautious about Halo 5's campaign. I avoided spoilers to the best of my abilities, and I started it initially with my parents. We were playing through it on Legendary, and I'll admit it is pretty tough. It is a very hard game on Legendary. Well, it was for me. Again, I was quite young when the game launched. We got to a certain point in the game, and then my parents kind of stopped playing. They got bored of the game. It wasn't that enjoyable. We weren't enjoying the story, so fair enough. But, well, I sort of was enjoying it. They weren't, I wasn't as much. So I waited for quite a while before I ended up finishing that game. And I ended up finishing it myself on normal difficulty. I like its campaign overall. Well, I didn't. I used to downright hate it. I think it has some cool moments, but I did used to downright hate it. It's only where I've replayed it again more recently where I've gained a new appreciation for it. And although I will admit, its story does suck. I'm not a fan of its story, but in terms of as the game itself goes, its gameplay is still really fun, and I like it in a more PvE setting. As I've mentioned plenty of times on the channel, I am not a very competitive person a lot of the time when it comes to stuff like this. If I have the option to play something less competitive, then I will take that option. I like playing against, you know, I like playing single player stuff more than multiplayer stuff, because I don't have to try as hard. I can turn my brain off and just sit there and relax and enjoy it. So yeah, Halo 5's campaign can be really enjoyable, and it's definitely worth at least one playthrough. It has some really cool moments. Every cinematic cutscene in that game is really cool. The opening feels like something out of an Avengers movie, and it can't be understated how cool that opening cutscene was. Seeing it for the first time, like, yeah, this is cool. I hope the whole game keeps this up. It did not. But then that cutscene on the second level with Chief, where they're all flying through that window, again, really cool. I hope the whole game keeps this up. It did not. Overall, the combat encounters were definitely a lot more boring than they were in prior Halo games, but because of things like Halo 5's gameplay in general, like its mobility and its movements and all that sort of stuff, it can make combat pretty fun at times. Not great by any means, but it can be fun now and again. And as I mentioned, this game does have some really cool moments, like that bit where you're all sliding down the side of a Guardian. Yeah, that's pretty rad. And that bit where you're like on the second or third level as Chief or whatever, and you're flying around the Phaetons through these tunnels. That bit's cool. I like that sort of stuff. And the game has several cool Easter eggs and like weapons scattered around like the levels that you can go and find, like some of the wreck weapons. And I think that stuff's really cool. It has a lot of references to the rest of the franchise that sort of, it is a nice game for those people that are a lot more invested and read the side material and that sort of stuff. But that can dampen the experience for a more casual sort of Halo play that isn't as invested in the series. I'm very invested in the series, so I respect a lot of the references to other stuff. I think that stuff's cool. But for someone that maybe doesn't know about a lot of that side material, a lot of the game doesn't make as much sense, and that does suck. When I was younger and I played through the game the first time, I didn't understand a lot of that stuff, so that's probably why I didn't enjoy it as much. But there is so much about this game that does make it quite redeeming and makes it worth at least one playthrough. It is by no means as good as Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, ODST and Reach in terms of its story, but it still has a really enjoyable campaign. Not an enjoyable story, but an enjoyable campaign. Like the bits where you meet up with the Arbiter and seeing the Arbiter again. Yeah, that was awesome. Seeing him in the trailer for the first time in that Halo 2 anniversary cutscene. It was nice seeing the Arbiter in a Halo game again, as it felt like it had been forever since he'd appeared. The main disappointment for me for Halo 5 is the fact that you don't play as Chief more. You know, he's the face of the franchise, not just the franchise, but he's pretty much the face of Xbox. And the fact that you only play as Chief in like 3 out of the 15 levels in this game is absurd and quite stupid. I will quickly talk about the Chief versus Locke fight, and I thought it was cool, but really annoying. Like, seeing 2 Spartans fight, yeah, that's cool, but oh my god, Chief should have beat him way easier than that. Now, it did seem like, I will admit, it did seem like Chief wasn't really trying at first. He didn't quite want to have to beat up Locke. But then when Locke cracked his visor, that's when he saw Crackdown and kicked the crap out of him. And he does beat Locke. I liked the fact that Chief did beat Locke because, you know, it's Chief, he should have beat him anyway. And I'm glad they didn't try to make Locke beat him. But he should have beat him so much easier. I'll admit, I find Halo Followers animation where Chief beats the crap out of him quite funny. And people are like, it's cringe and all this. Shut up! Just enjoy things. Halo fans hate everything. Oh my god! I'm not trying to say that I think Halo 5 is by any means a great game. I mean, I do still think it's a really enjoyable game, and if you didn't look at it as a Halo game, I think people would like it a lot more. Because it did so much to change the Halo formula, people didn't like it as much. I'm going on a tangent here, and my words aren't making as much sense. Point is, I enjoy Halo 5's campaign and do think it's worth at least one playthrough, even if its story isn't the strongest. I still enjoy this game, I still really enjoy Halo 5's campaign, but I will admit, as far as its story goes, it is not as good as the other Halo games. Going back to it more recently and playing through it again, I've got a new respect for the game, but that doesn't mean I necessarily think its campaign is wonderful by any means. I just think it's enjoyable and is worth at least one playthrough. I'm sorry I went off on a bit of a tangent, got back to our original point. I've spent way longer on this topic again than I wanted to originally. Halo 5 campaign good, Halo 5 story bad. Play it if you haven't, it is worth at least one playthrough. The last major thing I want to talk about with Halo 5 is its music. Now, overall, Halo 5 does have the weakest soundtrack in the series, in my opinion. It does still have some standout songs here and there. I like Blue Team, it's sort of that slowed down version of 117. And the menu music is pretty cool. Also, Light as Green, the song that plays in that opening cutscene where Locke and everyone are going down the hill. That's also a pretty banging track, I can't deny it. And also, there's sort of iteration of the main theme when Chief and Blue Team are obviously smashing through that window on their first level. Yeah, that's pretty cool, I enjoy it. But overall, Halo 5's soundtrack does sort of sound a bit more generic. It does sound like a much more generic sci-fi game soundtrack, and not quite like a Halo soundtrack. And overall, I can't remember too many of the song names because they're not that memorable. I don't think Halo 5's soundtrack is awful, but as far as comparing it to other Halo games, it is definitely probably the weakest in the series. I think I've covered all the main sort of points that I wanted to, but before we sort of get to the main outro, if you are enjoying this video, please subscribe if you're new here, you know. If you are enjoying the video, you know, leave a like. I'd appreciate it. I will be covering ODST and Halo Reach in the next 2 of these videos, but I have got some other stuff I'm working on in the meantime, like a review of Aliens Fireteam Elite. But, yeah, so carrying on. Halo 5, when the game was announced, yes, I was very excited. And the game launched and I had a good time with it. I used to play it quite a lot with my mates in high school until they all uninstalled it. It was a very sad day. I had no one to play Halo 5 with anymore. But I've got a lot of good memories of this game. Some old, some more recently. When they did finally add all the really cool custom games in Forge, I used to play it quite a lot with my cousins again, like we did on Reach. And I will always appreciate that sort of stuff. And Halo 5 will always hold a place in my heart. I do still love this game. Even if it doesn't feel as much like a Halo game as prior entries, it is still a Halo game. It still has that Halo title. It still has Chief in it, even though not as much as he should be. But that doesn't mean the game isn't enjoyable. I do love this game, and I probably will for as long as I will all the others. It's part of my favourite series of all time, and that's nothing I can change. The game does have more than enough redeeming qualities, even if it does have its fair share of negatives. Say what you will about the art style, but it doesn't change my perspective of the game. Yes, it is kind of not very great, But overall, this game has more than enough in its favour to make it worth at least one playthrough for its campaign, and definitely worth playing its multiplayer. As someone that favours more casual stuff, Warzone was a really nice addition for me personally, and I will admit, I hate rec packs. I brought loads of them and I shouldn't have, I do hate them, but I will admit I like the satisfaction of getting a cool item out of a pack. I used to like watching Green Skull open a bunch of packs on videos and all that sort of stuff. So even that, it does have like a place there, as much as I would have preferred the game without rec packs. I can't deny that I did find it satisfying when I got a cool item out of a pack. But yeah, folks, that's sort of everything with Halo 5. Again, I do love this game. It does have plenty of negatives, but with this video I wanted to speak more so about the stuff that I do love about it rather than the stuff that I hate about it. A bit more of a positive take on the game, as I have with all the prior videos. This has been the longest of all these videos, as I definitely feel like I'm improving a lot more myself as a content creator, and I speak about these things a bit more professionally now. If you look back at my Combat Evolved one, you'll see that the sort of way that video is presented is a lot different to this one or even the Halo 4 one. But anyway, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.